have anything to give away. All right, I'm talking about the PEG bill that we're working on with the legislature. As many of you know, and I'll just kind of go through this pretty quickly because I think I talked about it in one of the workshops too, but I want to just generally tell all of you, in case you didn't know, that Oshkosh and Rice Lake both experienced 2-week outages earlier this year, as well as the city of Green Bay actually, well, in a sense, being still out. At that point, Charter said that it would be 5 or 6 months before those channels would get back on the air. And at that point, I started scouring the statute to see what we could do. And again, kind of refreshed my memory on how weak our statute is. And started talking to DAPCAP. That's the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Started talking to the Department of Financial Institutions. Started talking to the legislators in Oshkosh and Rice Lake. And luckily, one of our legislators actually used to serve on the WCM board, and that's the one from Rice Lake. Dave Armstrong is now a first-term assembly person. And he just happened to be in the Rice Lake office when it was determined that the PEG channel would be down. Charter had moved a location, hooked the channel back up, and it didn't work. So Dave right away called his office, told his aide to call Charter. Same kind of deal happened in Oshkosh, and lo and behold, Charter was able to find a couple of encoders in a couple of weeks to get those channels back up in the air. Was that correct? Was the second channel a little longer or not? It was both of them? Okay. But it really highlighted to us the need for better enforcement. So one of the things we're working with now with actually, we're working with Senator Jeff Smith's office. He's a Democrat from Eau Claire. Yep. And he has introduced us to the Legislative Council, and the Legislative Council now is helping us craft good enforcement language. I gave him what we had, and they're going to look at what is possible, what has been done before in state statutes, and see if we can craft something that's really effective. So that's one thing we're doing in this bill. The other thing that we're doing, that when we asked you to fill out that public policy survey some time ago, we asked you what your top priorities were for legislation, and you said HD. So what this bill does is it would require cable companies to provide our signal in HD if we are producing the signal in HD. It would give them a certain amount of time to make that happen. And it would allow them to do it in any way they can. You know, it's up to them how, but that it would have to be HD like broadcast channels are carried. So that's one provision. The other provision is this transmission issue. And I think a lot of you have been having problems when you relocate an origination point. And it's something that has been, I don't know, I mean, I hear stories over the years from various municipalities about how Charter will quote them an amount. There's no detail in the quote. You know, it's either take it or leave it. And, you know, surprisingly, you guys relocate your origination points fairly often, you know, on a statewide basis. I mean, I've probably run across about 7 or 8 of these over the years. So it was important to us also to take a look at that issue because the cable company dictates what kind of transmission equipment we use. The cable company is the only one that can do an upstream drop for us. So they're a sole source vendor, and they basically say, pay this amount or don't have an origination point. And, you know, I don't think that's a reasonable situation. So the board also decided to include in this bill that Charter, who basically covers 90% of the state, and other video service providers, would have to provide the transmission equipment themselves. They would pay for the transmission equipment. They would install the transmission equipment. For any current origination points, they would supply the transmission line. They would construct the transmission line. For any relocated points, they would construct the transmission line and handle that. If you wanted to add an origination point, the municipality would pay. Also built into this bill, because one of the questions we're always asked by Republican legislators is how much is this going to cost? We don't want to overburden these poor cable operators who are suffering so built into the bill is some limitation language so that we cannot charge them over a certain amount. But yet, at the same time, it protects our smallest municipalities that don't get much in the way of franchise fees. It also protects them by giving smaller localities who have lower franchise fees, it gives them a little extra capacity to fund it. So it may be in some really small communities, this still would not quite cover the cost of transmission lines, but I think in the vast majority, the way we have this bill framed, it would. We did a couple of other things. We looked at some other provisions, like the fact that in the 2007 statute, right now, PEG channels can be on any tier that has 50% or more customers. And we decided that was inadequate, so this bill would say the most customers. We would have to be on the tier with the most customers. It would require video service providers to carry not only video programming, but also content. So that would be like closed captioning. They're required to do that by federal law, but including it in state law, we just thought it was also worth doing. I don't want to get into the weeds too much with some of these computations, because I think it's not worth it right now. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, and also the other thing we put in here was having the video service provider provide contact information for a service technician to the local channel originator. I mean, this is something also that has been a real difficulty, because I don't know how many times I've gotten a call from somebody who says, I don't know who to contact at Charter, our signal is not looking good, or we've got an outage, can you please help me out, who do I call? So that handles that. Also, it also expands the ability of us to enforce federal regulations in regard to customer service. Right now, the current law basically has such a wide loophole for this that essentially the video service providers in the state are not subject to the Code of Federal Regulations governing cable television systems. So that's pretty much what it covers. I mean, the goal was to try to keep it narrow, to try to get a bill that Republicans would support, because the situation in the legislature right now is it's the Republicans' game. And if a Republican sponsors a bill, it'll go to committee, it'll be considered by committee, and might get to the floor. If a Democrat brings forth a bill, it's going to die in committee. So we need Republicans to back this bill. We need it to be a reasonable bill. We need it to be a bill that doesn't seem to unduly burden cable operators. So that's what we've got, and we just picked a priority. You'll notice we don't have electronic program guide. We don't have bringing our channels into next to broadcast channels. There's a lot of things we would love to put in. We don't have a PEG fee in here. There's a lot of things we would love to have, but right now we're trying to get our nose under the tent and see if we can get some positive change going. So we will let you know what we need you to do, but I think we were just in a session with Mike and Mike, and they were emphasizing the need for coalitions. So you really need to get those relationships not only with your legislators, which we always push for, but also, really, schmooze your nonprofits you're working with, or your local officials. Keep your local officials in the loop, because we will be looking at forming some kind of a municipal official working group of city managers and mayors who care about PEG, who can kind of act as sort of our link to the municipal level. The League of Wisconsin Municipalities has always been a friend, but I think having a working group on that level would be a really good step for us to make sure that relationship is cemented. So if you think you've got a mayor or a city administrator who would be happy to serve on a committee like that, let me know who that is, and we'll start pulling something like that together. Does anybody have any questions about the bill? Scott?
Since the leading point is HD carriage, which I'm all in favor of. Can we craft the language to make it something equal to the signal resolution of the broadcast channels?
That's exactly what we did.
Because we just handed out a bunch of 4K devices, and I'd hate to see us, maybe get this passed and then have to do it all over again in.
Yeah. I tell you, Scott, you hit on the one issue that the Public Policy Committee has probably spent more hours talking about than anything else, how to characterize that very thing. And what we finally fell into was an equivalent kind of language, equivalent to the local broadcasters. And yeah, so that's exactly what we did.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Last call. All right, thanks. Dave, I think is up, right?
Okay. Hey, if anyone has a picture or video of the conference so far last night, you can upload it to MediaFire and the WCM folder, that'd be great. Because we'll try and keep as many pictures or footage of the conference as we can. First of all, thanks to the conference committee and Mary for putting this all together. So, great night. Great band. Go Packers, right? So, okay, so I got a little spiel I'm going to read. So, how many of you have a TV set? You got one, right? You just got one today. Okay, so that's pretty much all the room. How many of you have a smartphone? Okay, about the same number, right? Well, according to the Pew Research Center, 85% of us have a smartphone. That's pretty good. I mean, 85% of all Americans. But when you consider that, 85% was the same percentage of people having a TV set back in, wait for it, 1959. Before I was born, same number of people that had a television set currently have a smartphone. Well, what's that going to mean? It means we're in the same place as we were in 1959 with TVs, except now it's with smartphones. So, in 1959, the majority of people got their news from print, but by the early 1960s, television replaced print as a major source of news. In 2016, 62% of people got their news primarily from a digital platform. That was 5 years ago. Now it's 86%. So it's increased 24% in 5 years. As far as people getting their daily information on social platforms or digital platforms. Now, people currently still get their information from TV, but only 68% do, 50% from radio, and 32% for print. In today's media landscape, in order to get your message out, you need to be on a digital platform. Now, WCM has been trying to do that with our members to communicate, important information like this bill and other things. Currently, we use our website, newsletters, e-lists, member forums, print, even phone calls, right, Mary? I hate phone calls. We got them that I don't like phone calls, but that's what we got text and email for. But that's just me. But more and more, WCM will be sharing important information on our Facebook page and our new private Facebook group for station managers. With WCM using social media more, that's going to save us time, it's going to save us money, it'll reach more people than traditional methods. And it's quicker, so. And you can help us, and it's only going to take 5 seconds. Take out your smartphone, take a picture of the QR code, and like our Facebook page if you haven't already. And once you like our Facebook page, if you're a key contact or station manager, then you can be invited to join the private Facebook group. And we can do more things on Facebook group, like upload files, share different things that we can't do on our normal Facebook page. So, there's some benefit to that. So anyway, hope everyone had a great conference. Please follow our Facebook page and group. And everyone have a, yeah.
Instagram on there too?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's on this because I didn't do it. I think it is, yeah. Yeah, so join Instagram too. All right, everyone have a safe trip, and thanks for coming.